bad volume pot. That's a bad volume pot. That sucks. Morning. Not new. I've had it about a year now, year and a half, maybe a little bit longer, around there. I have a ton. I do. In the studio currently that are not in the shop. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I think I have 8 here. I have about 13 total. I think I have 8 here. So I have this. This is the Schecter. I think it's a GTFR. They call it. You know, they're all. I do all the FU tone upgrades to all of them. Upgrade the tremolos and all that shit. I have the red one. You see me always play. I have the 7-string version of the red one. Well, purple one. I call it purple. Purple one you see all the time. This is the 7-string version. And then I have my 2 Les Pauls. This one with the original burst buckers. This one has a bunch of custom wound stuff from FU Tone. Well, they all give me different sounds in the studio. That's the whole thing. You know, I have to have a bunch of different sounds that my clients can use. So this one's got like less hot vintage style PAF pickups. This one's got the more modern. Oh no, these are 490s, not burst buckets. I'm sorry. These are the more modern 490Ts. So they're a little bit more modern. So this guitar I usually have down in drop C sharp for, you know, all the fucking metal bands and hardcore bands that come in. This guitar is usually half step down. It's just, I have it in standard because I'm testing tones. So I want to make sure all the tone across all the guitars is the same. Well, as the same as they can be. I want to make sure it works for all the guitars. And then I have some other cool stuff that you guys probably haven't seen, that I haven't showed you guys. Or I haven't played on stream. If you hear a big bang, don't worry, it's just me falling down on, tripping on shit in my studio. Then I have this Strat. Which is a cool Strat and has some cool tones. I gotta get some volume pots. I beat the shit out of these things really bad. You hear that? Yep. Need a new volume pot for this one too. And they're all happening in the same place at the end of the run. So what that means is the dust from sitting around in the studio, living in the desert, has gotten into the pots that I need to replace them. This one I might be able to clean. But, and then this last one I have sitting here. This guitar is an experiment. This one this is probably my newest guitar that I own. This was a pink Squier Stratocaster that I found online. So I stripped all the paint. You can see it's still got a little bit of pink in the cavity. That's the color it was. That pink that's in there. And I never owned a guitar with a Floyd Rose and a P90. Hell, I've never seen one. So I wanted to see what it would be like to have a Floyd Rose tremolo and a P90. This one's down in D. Oh no, E flat. And it's got an EVH tuner on it. So you could drop it down real quick. The difference between a Super Strat and just a Strat. Yeah, this P90 sounds sick, dude. This is a Seymour Duncan Fat Cat. It doesn't even, it's like, it's got all the bite of the P90, but it's almost but it's noisy as fuck. That's just the volume up. Hold on. The gate actually might be cutting some of that. Let me see. How do I turn this fucking thing off? Yeah, okay, so that's the gate off. It's noisy as shit, but it fucking sounds great. So it's noisy as shit, but when you play it, fucking just great sound and pickup. All the note clarity you get out of it because it's so low output. Great sound and pickup. But yeah, that's my collection of guitars that are all a little bit different from each other, and just a little bit, because it makes all the difference in the world. And the other crazy thing is I don't own a guitar in my entire collection that's probably worth more than $1,500. I don't need to. I mod them to the point where they sound great. I do all my own work. I got my workbench right here. All my shit on it. Right now it's just a mess, but whatever. I install my own pickups. I do all my own setups on my guitars. The only thing I do fret edge work. The only thing I don't do is I don't do the actual fret work myself. I'm way too scared to do that stuff myself. Yeah, but this was like a $300 experiment that worked out awesome. I had an extra Floyd Rose laying around from one of the other guitars that I had, and I was like, you know what? I wonder what a Floyd Rose at a P90 would sound like. So I bought a cheap $300 Squire Stratocaster. Oh, you had asked the difference between a Super Strat and a regular Strat. The difference between a regular Strat and a Super Strat can be multiple things. But a Super Strat is basically what they consider a hot-rodded Strat. So anything other than the 3 single coil pickups, anything other than the standard vintage tremolo, changes it from a Strat to a Super Strat. So this, because it's got the P90 in the bridge and the Floyd Rose, would be considered a Super Strat. This would be considered a Strat, even though I have a humbucker in the bridge. If this had 3 single coil pickups, it'd be a straight up Strat, because it's got the vintage style tailpiece, and it's got, it would have the 3 single coil pickups. So that would be Strat versus Super Strat. Most of my guitars are Super Strats, because I love a humbucker in the bridge. And clearly I love a P90 in the bridge too. For years, with all of my guitars, I was a 2 humbucker guy. Humbucker in the bridge, humbucker in the neck. Then I got this guitar, and all of that changed. The single coils in this guitar are so... I love the FU tone stuff. I 100% believe it is worth the price. But here is the deal. It's not for everyone. What it does, what I find, is I get a little more clarity out of the notes. My sustain is better on the Floyd Rose guitars. Well, actually, even I have I have a brass block on one of my Strats too, which is an FU tone, and it does improve the sound of that guitar. So it just, You have to really be able to hear the nuances first to notice it. Most people are like, oh, it's snake oil, it's blah, 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 yada, yada, yada. It doesn't do anything. Well, the difference is so small. You can get great tone not having FU tone stuff. You can get great tone with FU tone stuff. Or any upgraded bridge. Floyd Rose makes their own brass, stainless steel, all those parts too. I have a couple of those. In fact, this is one of those tremolos. This one is a Floyd Rose Pro, right? It's a Pro. That's what they call it. 1000 Pro, something like that. No, it's the Hot Rod. That's what they call it. They call it the Hot Rod, and it's brass block. It's got the goddamn camera. It's got the stainless steel screws and all the stuff. The brass in the back. And it's got the noiseless springs from FU Tone too. I don't have the brass claw on this one. I have that in my other guitars. I just haven't upgraded this one yet. Adam, send me one! But yeah, I love the FU Tone stuff. I really do. A buddy of mine turned me on to it, and I put one in one guitar. I bought a brass block, and I bought the noiseless springs, and it was a massive difference in that particular guitar. This was a ESP that I used to have. It's technically an LTD. It's an LTD, like one of the top Korea models that they used to make. It was a great guitar to begin with. An FU Tone guitar isn't going to take a shitty guitar and make it sound great. It will take a great guitar and make it sound better. So if you have a shitty guitar and you're going to be like, oh, I'm going to upgrade it and put FU Tone stuff in it, it's going to be a shitty guitar that sounds a little bit better. But if you do it on a really good guitar, the difference is night and day. Especially, I find especially in the top end of the cleans, like on the neck pickup. The cleans don't get really spiky. That's... Or where it gets really, really high-endy and trebly is on this setting. Yeah, I love this fucking guitar. Here's the craziest part about it. I bought the other purple guitar, the GTFR, first. Okay? And I was like, this is a ripping guitar. It's a ebony fingerboard. First guitar I ever bought with an ebony fingerboard. Both of my Les Pauls both have rosewood fingerboards. So it's the first guitar I ever bought with an ebony fingerboard. And I was like, oh, this is amazing. I love this. Blah, 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 blah. Then I played a buddy of mine's guitar that was set up like my guitar, but it had the singles and a maple neck. And I was like, oh, this is a whole other thing. I need to find a guitar like this. So I was looking around Reverb, and I was looking for a 7-string. And I happened to find that 7-string. And I was like, oh, that is cool. Purple's my thing. It's my color. Everything is purple in my life. I'm like, this is cool as shit. So what do? I buy it. Now it's a 7-string, right? So I'm like, yeah, cool. I got a 7-string. Didn't play it that much. So I was missing the single coil neck tone with the maple fingerboard, and I was like, I have to find something else. I got on Reverb, and the first fucking thing that popped up was this. I was like, oh my god, they make a 6-string version, and I bought it right away. I can't not have it. So now it's cool that I have the 6 and 7-string version of the same fucking guitar. It's definitely a cool thing. But as you can... Now, that was the thing. These guitars came with EMGs in them. And I had them take the EMGs. I took the EMGs out, and I put these in. These are a custom wind. Yeah, me too. I'm a big fan now. So all of my guitars going forward are probably going to have maple fingerboards. So these pickups are wound by a company called Jalen Guitar. Shout out to Jalen. Jalen Guitar. Powered by Tone and Coffee. 100%. So Greg over at Jalen wound these up for me. So what I did was I told him the pickups that I really like, that I had in a bunch of my other guitars. And I was like, well, this is what I like. What can you do that's similar to that, but I want a little less spiky on the top end, and I want the low end to be a little tighter and not as flubby. And he sent me the bridge pickup first, and I was like, oh, this thing's awesome. He's like, oh, by the way, that's your partner's pickup. So Jeff Duncan, who is my business partner in GFY Records, and I produced pretty much all his stuff for him, had a custom pickup made by him. And I was like, oh, perfect. That's beautiful. So I put that in the guitar, and it's amazing. It's perfect. So then he wound me a set of single coils to match this one, and it's why I can't put it down. I love this guitar. It does everything from, if I could go into the jazzy bullshit patch. Well, that's really loud now. Hold on. This is what I spent my time doing all day today. Getting these all kind of in the same volume area. So anyway, like if you go to... this has got a little breakup on it. So that's the same single coil. And then you just roll down the tone. So it's all about getting different sounds and different tones. You can do the same with guitar that you do the same that you can do with, like the fucking Axe effects and shit. I mean, they make a modeling guitar. Line 6 makes the Variax. That's like a modeling guitar, so you can have. You can make it sound like humbuckers, you can make it sound like single coils, you can make it sound like whatever you want, a P90, whatever. You can change the spacing of the pickups. It does all kinds of stuff. I had one for a while. They're really cool. It was a great studio tool, but it started to get, it got annoying. So you can do anything you want to find different tones, but it's kind of the thing I focus on, is getting different tones, because I work on so many different types of records, so I'll sit around like a day like today and I'll just make a tone all day long. Maybe it's one tone, maybe it's 3 or 4. I know I've had this 80s band that came in, so I called a buddy of mine and I got his JCM 800, and I made a cool JCM 800 profile, if I could fucking find it, in the Kemper. Oh, it's right here. Oh, no, that's not it. That's not the one. This one. I know I have this 80s band coming in. So, fucking 800 with a tube screamer. So I created an 80s tone for them to mess around with, something basic and something simple, Yeah, I mean, that's the typical 80s thing. It's an 800 with a tube screamer into a... This isn't on the Axe effects. This one particularly happens to be on the Kemper, but, because I modeled a real amp, but I could do the same thing just as easily on the Axe effects. Let me just find an empty preset, or a preset that I can write over. What's in preset 9? Preset 9 is empty. Look at that. Beautiful. Okay, so this is what we're going to do. We're going to take an 800. I'm going to go over here. We're going to grab just a... Actually, I'm going to do better than that. I am going to go with... Yep. We'll pull up the number 34800. I don't know what the difference is. I'm going to load up. I don't know about... I've only had this thing like a month. We'll go with an 808. Okay. We'll connect the two. Connect that to the input. Oops, I forgot. I got to click here. And then we'll put a cabinet in. And we'll go with a Recto 57. We'll hear what that sounds like. And we'll go in here. We're going to dump the drive. We're going to max out the level. Oh, I got to connect this to the output. Yeah, I was like, that sounds weird. Something's going on. I'm not liking the recto cabinet on that one. That's nice. Pull some of that low end out. Now it needs some top end. It's a little too gainy. You see? Simple. Amp, cabinet, fucking overdrive. Nice and simple. Now you can turn this into all the cool other shit that you like. You know, so if you want to go like super fucking 80s, you throw on a delay. We go delay here, right? And then we're going to come over here and we'll do a stereo. We'll do a digital stereo. Now here's a cool trick with a model that you can do to almost make your guitar sound like two guitars. You dump the delay time to about, I don't know, 7 milliseconds. Then you pan. Oh, I'm doing this wrong. Hold on. My bad. I'm doing this wrong. I need a digital mono delay. Sorry, my bad. So you take this, right? Oh, I don't remember how to get stereo outputs on this. I forgot. It's probably the mixer. See? I'm so new to this fucking thing. No, it's synth. Region. Oh, we could do it with a multi-delay, actually. The multi-delay on this would work. So we'll get rid of that for now. We'll come over here to the multi. And we'll go... Whew! We'll do a 32nd. We'll do a 64th. The feedback's going to be super low. I'm getting too much comb filtering. Hold on. Yeah, I don't know. There's something weird going on in this fucking thing. I don't know. I have the feedback turned down, so what the fuck is going on? Oh, it's this. So many controls on these fucking things. Yeah, I don't know what's going on. This doesn't work right. And the Kemper, it's super easy to do. Anyway, whatever. Fuck that trick. But anyway, like I was saying, now you can add all your cool fucking 80s shit. So we're going to put a delay on it. Come on, go where I want you to go. Thank you. We're going to put a reverb on it. We're going to go with a large hole. I am going to bring... I'm going to bring down the mix on that. So it's just there in the back. So it might be a little too big. So we're going to go and we're going to pull the time down a little. Much better. Make the size a little smaller too. And we want full stereo width. Okay, now throw a delay on it. Like 400 milliseconds. Well, this is the thing, Nick, with the XFX 2. Because you don't have as much option paralysis. I think the XFX 3 gets way too complicated because you can do too much crazy routing and too many blocks. I'm a personal believer that the modelers that have the least amount of shit are the better ones. Because they focus more on the amp sounds than the effects. You know, most modelers sound great today. I mean, they really do. You have to get into some really shitty stuff in order to not get good tones. Oh yeah, that was totally in my darkest hour. Totally. Huge Megadeth fan, by the way. But option paralysis is a very real thing. You know, some people in the guitar thing think you have to add more stuff to get better sound. I find that's completely opposite. The less shit that you have in the way of the actual amp sound makes it sound better. You know, like I'm building like this 80s patch because Chris keeps orgasming over this fucking 80s sound shit. You know, so I'm building these 80s patches. You know, and it's just I mean, that's straight up, even that delay is a little much. I would go much lower on the mix on that delay. I would do less feedback. Oh, I turned it off by accident. Yeah, that's plenty. I would probably actually go faster than that too. I'd probably go 6, maybe 7. No, that's too much. Yeah, that's good. Fuck, I'm gonna tap it. I'm gonna go dotted eighth notes. And I like my delay so you can really only hear the delay when you stop playing. So as I'm playing, you see how while I'm playing the fast stuff, you can still hear the delay in the background. It's not too much, but it's just there's a little bit while I'm playing that I don't like. So you can go into your delay and you can do what's called ducking, okay? And what you want to do is you grab your ducker and you do like a 2 dB attenuation, and then I like it to release really quick. And I'm going to set that probably around there. So you hear that? While I'm playing, there's almost no delay. But as soon as I stop, the delay is there. So that's actually got to come down a little bit. So I can even bring the level up, the mix up on the delay now. I'm actually going to go 3 dB on this one. And now I have all that delay when I'm not playing. That can give you all that cool 80s shit. That way, while you're playing all this fast shit, there's almost no delay there, so you can hear what the fuck you're playing. You know, and then you have all the big delays when you're done. A ducker release can probably go up a little bit more too. Yeah. Even if I hold the note, you get a little bit of that delay in the background. Now you kill that stuff and you know, so that's like the 80s setup. Then you can go in here if you want to do something super modern. Grab the 50-watt blue channel, leave the tube screamer the same. The cabinet, we're going to change over to a vintage 30 loaded cabinet. Go over to the amp. I do 7, 4, 7. Whoops, 7. Presence 5, depth 5. Master volume 5. Yeah, that should be about right. There's a little bit of an EQ thing there in the head that I don't like. I'm going to put an equalizer in here. I don't think a 10 band constant Q. There's some tubbiness in that. I'm going to dump that a little. I'm going to bring that up a hair. I'm going to pull some of that 500 and that 1K. I'm going to boost it a little bit at 2K. Too much mid scooped at this point. Let's put that 1K back. Let's put that 500 back. I also got to turn the amp down because it's peaking. This doesn't work like a real tube screamer. So let's try a different one. That's better. I'm going to change this EQ, actually. I'm going to change it to a multi-band. Oh, I'll just use a parametric. That works, too. I know that frequency is around 300 somewhere. You should not be a shelf. That's it right there, but I pulled too much. You see the little moves I'm making? It's just tiny little things. You hear that tubbiness in the tone? Put the EQ on. Gives it a little bit more clarity. I would actually give this whole thing a little bit more top end too. Maybe bring the presence up a hair. No, it's not the presence. Whoa, didn't want that. Sorry. Yeah, that's better. So let's do this. Since that's a more modern tone. So you get the idea. It's just little tweaks. I find that too many people will take an amp that they think should sound a certain way and try to morph that amp to an amp that sounds a different way in a modeler. They do it all the time. Just go through the models, listen to them, play riffs that you like, find the amp that sounds closest to what you want, and then tweak from there. Doesn't matter what amp it is. If it's a fucking Fender Bassman, whatever. If it's the sound, it's the sound. See? Another bad volume pot. You gotta find the sound first. Get something that... Go through everything. Whole thing. So, you get the idea. A Catalyst 200... What the hell is that? I have to look that up now. Thanks for coming and hanging. Oh, it's the Line 6. Got you. HC100. Are these full range speakers? Probably, right? See? This is a cool modeling amp. It's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It's got 6 fucking amp types. Pick the one that you want. Crunch is going to give you like the 80s thing. Dynamic's probably more around the 80s thing. Crunch is going to give you the AC/DC thing. The high gain is going to give you the modern amp thing. The chime is going to give you that bluesy thing. It's beautiful. This is great. It's got a built-in boost. It's like a tube screamer. This is a nice amp. And then with the effects, you choose the effects that you want and how much you want. Nice and simple. You don't have to dive through menus and do all kinds of crazy shit. And then you even have options. It's got an effects loop. Is it a stereo loop? It should be a stereo loop. I hope it's a stereo loop. It's got power attenuation, MIDI and USB in, aux in so you can jam with your records. It's got a headphone out. It's got a direct record. This is a cool amp. $500. $500. Yes. Chris. Find what you want, dude. If you're into that like 80s thing, the 80s thrash metal thing, I would stay away from the high gain amps. That's a modern metal thing. 100%. Go with whatever that model was just below. Hold on. That was the top view I was looking at. Yeah, hold on. So I would go with this dynamic amp. That's probably what you're going to want to do. Do a dynamic amp. Probably set the gain probably around noon. Bass, middle. So settle. Here's how you dial in. Yes. Because you got to remember, those early Megadeth albums, those early Metallica albums, Testament albums, high gain amps didn't exist. They were playing Marshalls with rats and rat distortion pedals and DS1s and tube screamers in front of them. That's what they were doing. Metallica went to EMG pickups because at the time EMG pickups had the highest output. So you could get all of that really tight chugging and extra gain from pushing the front of the amp. That's the sound of those records. So I would use the dynamic amp with the boost, make it like an 808 style. I don't know if you could change the stuff that's on it, but if you can make it like an 808 or a tube screamer, or I think they call it the green screamer in the Line 6 stuff. You put the green screamer in there, and then you fucking, or tube overdrive. I don't remember which one it's called. I don't remember what they call it. But whatever, you know what I'm talking about. The tube screamer. And then what you do is you turn the drive all the way down, you turn the level all the way up. So what that does is that boosts the front of the amp. So put all the knobs for the amp at 5 o'clock, put the gain at 5, put the tube screamer on it, see what that sounds like. If that's close, save that, then start tweaking the EQ controls a little bit. Then add, later on, your chorus and your delay, maybe a little bit of reverb. For the actual rhythm guitar tones, I would just use a little bit of reverb. For leads, obviously, I would put the delay on and a little extra reverb. If you're looking for that, like, White Lionish Vito Bratta thing, add a little bit of chorus to it. So, yeah, if you go high gain, you're going to fully go, like, 90s metal and later. Because the high gain, they get into the rectifier territory. So that's what the high gain models are. Yep, TS9 is the one you want. Perfect. Yeah. Try the DS1 too. Try all three. See which one you like the most. But it's all the same thing on all of them. The drive all the way down and the level all the way up. What you're doing is you're just tweaking the EQ as it goes into the amp to give it a little more of the characteristic. But that's what they were doing back then. So stick with that type of setup, and you'll get way closer probably to what you're looking for. So that should do you. Anyway, I'm going to bounce out of here. My dog's crying about shit. I guess he's got to go outside.